Good evening and welcome to the April 25th, 2024 regular meeting of the San Diego Community Power Board of Directors. I'm Joe LaCava, Chair of the Board and representative for the City of San Diego. We welcome the members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us in person today. I will now call the April 25th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power to order. Buddy, will you please call the roll?
Apologies, Mr. Chair. Chair LaCava.
Present.
Director Aguirre. Here. Director Parent.
Here.
Director Yamani. Here. Director McCann.
Present.
Director Hensey. Here. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. So please stand if you're able, face the flag, hand over your heart. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as was mentioned, we do have a quorum. So we will start off with our special presentations introductions. And I'll begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. Land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities, create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protections of their cultural resources and homelands. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. And with that, we will welcome our new hires. And as you may have heard a new voice, Maricela Hernandez is our new clerk of the board. This is our very first board meeting. Did you want to say a few words of introduction?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Maricela Hernandez. I go by Mari. Excuse me. I'm very excited to be here and joining this great organization. I come from a background of a municipal government with over 20 years of service, 12 years with the Riverside Transit Agency at JPA, where I work with many elected officials, just like you. When I left the agency, there were 21 board members. My recent past employment was the city of Calabasas. I was city clerk there for 12 years, where I handled many tasks, as you all know. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the welcoming.
And we're excited to have you here and many board meetings ahead of us. So let's begin. Are there any items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda? Not seeing any. We will now take up non-agenda public comment. I want to note that written public comments, if any were submitted before the board meeting, were emailed to all the directors prior to the board meeting and will be posted on the website at the beginning of the meeting. Bonnie, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
No, Mr. Chairman.
So let's move right along to consent agenda. We have 1 through 12, the meeting minutes of March 28th, treasurer's report, program updates on programs, power services, human resources, customer operations, marketing, public relations and local government affairs, community advisory committee monthly report, an update on regulatory and legislative affairs. We're also going to consider approving the 6th Amendment with New Gen Strategies and Solutions, adopting a resolution that appoints our San Diego Community Power Secretary, as well as approving the 5th Amendment to Professional Services Agreement with Brentech for computer and IT related services.
Mr. Chair, before we take a motion on this, we do need to make a disclosure under AB 2449.
My apologies, I forgot. Member Yamani?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am participating in today's meeting remotely under recent amendments to the Brown Act due to a contagious illness preventing me from participating in person. There is not someone 18 or older in the room with me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right, thank you. And thank you, Vera, for the reminder. Are there any directors that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Not hearing any. Amadi, do we have any public comment on the consent items?
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Any board member comments or a motion on the consent?
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
I will second that.
Well, we have a motion by member Hinsey and a second by member McCann. And since we have somebody remote, we will do a voice vote. So Marty, please call the vote.
Chair LaCava,
Yes.
Director Aguirre. Yes. Director Perrin,
Yes.
Director Yamani,
Yes,
Director McCann,
Aye.
Director Hensy. Yes. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. So we will now move on to item 13, which is an update on the vehicle grid integration strategy overview. I'll turn it over to Tim Treadwell, Senior Program Manager, to present this item.
Thank you all. Good evening. So I'm going to provide an update today on your microphone. Better?
There.
All right. Thank you and good evening. I'll provide an update today on the program team's work around vehicle grid integration strategies. We're going to start with an overview of kind of what's happening in the EV market in the county. Talk about some of the opportunities and challenges that provides. And go into some detail on vehicle grid integration strategies and then present what we are proposing as our strategy moving forward as program team. So you are probably pretty aware of this. The EV market in the county has been growing pretty rapidly. We had a slight downtick during COVID and it's recovered quite well. This data through 2023 actually ends in the first quarter. So that year closed pretty strong. And we have over 150,000 plug-in electric vehicles, both plug-in hybrids and full battery electrics operating now in the county. This is a pretty big opportunity and challenge from a grid management perspective. Each EV can draw between 3 kW and 10 kW, which effectively triples or quadruples the load of a home if you're charging at home, depending on the voltage of the circuit that the charger is attached to. Next slide. Given that the significant amount of load that is brought with electric vehicle adoption and the goals for the state to drive adoption further, there was a Senate Bill 676 that passed in 2019 that directed the Public Utilities Commission to look into strategies to optimize and drive effective management of new EV load. And that's all housed under this vehicle grid integration moniker, VGI. I won't read the definition for you, but essentially the commission is including a very broad sweeping definition of VGI, which includes any change in the location, time, duration, or power that electric vehicles are charged with the goal of delivering grid benefits or benefits to ratepayers. So that's increased use of renewables, lower cost investment in the grid, or increased stability. Next slide. So VGI strategies are pretty diverse. So if you think about the base case scenario, a new EV driver adopts electric vehicle, they go home, they plug it in, and then they get home every day from work. That would be the worst case scenario for us as a load serving entity and us as ratepayers and citizens of the county. Unmanaged charging would add to peak demand. It would increase the customer's cost on their time of use rates and drive up our resource adequacy and other procurement costs. So next. So we can work with customers to improve that situation. So the most basic VGI strategy is it's V1G. So this is controlling when the electrons go into the car itself. You can do this in a couple of different ways. You can do it through behavioral treatment, so time of use rates, demand response prompts, public engagement. You can also do it through direct control, so active charge management, which we'll talk about in a bit. Next is bidirectional charging, so vehicle to building and vehicle to home. This is where we're going a step further on this technology spectrum and actually using the stored energy in the vehicle to reduce the load of the home. Next, and finally, vehicle to grid. where we're going one step even further and using the stored energy in the vehicle, not only to meet the needs of the home, but actually to push it across the meter onto the grid to provide grid services. Next. So going a bit deeper on V1G. So as I mentioned, this is unidirectional. So this is just controlling when electrons go into the vehicle. The way that we do this is using the same communication systems that we as individual EV drivers or just vehicle drivers generally will use. Most electric vehicles, a lot of even internal combustion vehicles now have apps to interact with your vehicle. So those apps provide a pathway through the manufacturer's cloud for you to interact with your vehicle and do a remote start or set a charge duration and time period, track where you drive, where you go. So what we're basically doing with V1G is we're leveraging that same architecture and we're sending in a signal. So we'll contract with the software vendor. We will, with the customer's consent, do a digital handshake between their vehicle and their instance in the OEM cloud. And then we can send commands to the cloud and down to the vehicle to help them optimize their charge. And the goal there, next slide. The goal there is to drive participant savings. So helping customers understand that when they charge really matters on TOU rates. We can drive their lower bills. We can provide them prompts and kind of guidance on how they're doing with their charge times, when they charge and how. We can also reduce our operating costs as a load serving entity. So we can move load from high price periods to low price periods. And most importantly, we can reduce our peak demand, which drives our resource adequacy, which we all know is a big cost driver. Next slide. So this type of a program is something that's happening across the state and across the country. One of our sister CCAs, Peninsula Clean Energy, recently completed a pilot of this, and they were looking at V1G control strategies, interacting with different incentive designs and rate designs to see how customers responded and their acceptance of the technology. They had about 700 customers, sorry, that were recruited. They had really high levels of retention. They learned some valuable lessons about the incentive levels, the incentive structure that drive retention, and they saw bill savings from customers. In this case, about $12.50 a month in bill savings by helping customers stay off the peak times. Next slide. Similarly, Pacific Gas and Electric ran a V1G pilot, and it had a lot of the same goals, a lot of the same outcomes. One thing to point out here, which I thought was pretty interesting, is they actually they integrated this pilot with their public safety power shutoff program. So when there was a PSPS event coming, they sent a signal to the car and said, charge it up. Doesn't matter what the rate schedule is. We don't want to interrupt it. We want to make sure you have a full battery if and when the grid is shut down for PSPS. Next slide. So now we're moving from V1G to V to X. So this is bidirectional. So in the bidirectional charging space, we're not only controlling when the electrons are delivered into the vehicle, but we're also looking at when the electrons are, when and how they're coming out of the vehicle. This is critical for the industry. Current estimates is there's about 5 times as much energy storage capacity in electric vehicles, and there is stationary storage capacity right now on the market. So huge untapped area of work. There's multiple configurations to V to X, which we discussed earlier. There's vehicle to building or vehicle to home. And this is essentially functioning like a generator or efficiency, where we're using the stored energy of the battery to reduce the building load. So making the customer look smaller, helping them save money on their bills. Next. And then vehicle to grid is when we're not only meeting building load, but we're pushing that energy back out onto the grid to provide valuable services for the transmission operator, the local distribution operator, and for us as a load serving entity. Next slide. I will not read this to you, but I will say that this table is an indication of some of the many services and applications that this technology can provide. I think what's a little bit more interesting, if you go to the next slide, is kind of how this manifests itself in terms of cost and opportunity. So this is a bit of a dated study, it's 2019, but I think what's more important than the numbers is kind of the scale of that graph on the right. So what this is showing is that unmanaged base case, which is if customers plug their vehicles in and charge, when they get home, it costs the customer, it costs the grid, it costs us as an LSE. If we move to the V1G scenario, we've significantly reduced the resource adequacy cost, the distribution operations cost, and we're saving ratepayers money across the state. And if we go all the way over to the V2G scenario, we've not only eliminated the cost and that vehicle was causing the grid operation, we've actually turned it into an asset that we can use to provide services like frequency response, resource adequacy, and an energy price arbitrage maximization. One more note just on that last slide. The ability to tap into all these different value streams is spread across and it's delivered to multiple market actors. So you see on the left, SDCP as the entity that's responsible for procuring energy, dealing with RPS compliance and resource adequacy. You see the distribution capacity is SDG&E's domain, and then those ancillary services are the ISO. So to fully optimize and maximize the value of this technology, we really need market participation signals from a number of different actors. Next. Okay, so what does all this mean for us and for the board and for SDCP? So we are recommending that we launch a V1G pilot. And this is on the scale of hundreds of participants. Enrolling customers, we discussed, kind of using that pathway that the existing app infrastructure provides, and helping customers maximize when and how they charge, and looking at the value that it provides in terms of bill savings, resource adequacy savings, and cost savings. We're also proposing to do a V2X bidirectional demonstration. So as opposed to a pilot, this would be very small. This would be on the order of tens of customers. It's relatively new technology. We really want to understand how the technology works, how customers, what customers' acceptance looks like to let us discharge their battery, and how we can integrate it into our operational scheme. So this would be on the order of tens of customers. And we're looking to leverage existing awards through the California Energy Commission that have been made to deploy level 2 bidirectional charging infrastructure. So we'd be standing on the shoulders of CEC grants, bringing that to the region and providing some of our own funding. Next slide. And this is what we're looking at in terms of timing. So we've been doing a market assessment and strategy development for the last couple of quarters. We're planning out pilots now and demonstrations. We would like to do a procurement process in the third quarter to bring vendors on board to support this work, and ultimately begin, if all goes well, enrolling customers and implementing in the fourth quarter. And that is it for me. Are there any questions?
Oh, I'm sure we will. But thank you, Tim. That's a great presentation. So first, Mari, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So I'll turn it over to the board. This is receiving files. We don't need a motion. Any questions? Well,
Through the chair.
Oh, yes, Director Yamani.
Thank you. This is a pilot program, and is that my understanding, Mr. Chairman? So it's not active yet. We're still going to put it out there.
Tim, do you want to respond?
Yes, we're proposing to do a pilot around 500-ish customers and a separate small scale demonstration that would have less than 100 customers.
So do you have what from all the member agencies, or just an area, like for one area that you're gonna pilot this program?
Yes, so the V1G pilot would be open to all customers that have a vehicle, a compatible vehicle. Not all vehicles have made their cloud integrations available for this type of use, but there are a large number that have, and it's growing. So we would have an eligible vehicle requirement, but other than that, be open to all active customers.
Eligible vehicle like what?
I hesitate to give you the list at the moment because it is
Okay.
changing pretty quickly.
Okay, I
can-
understand. I understand. Mr. Chairman, so, what's the economic impact on this one?
I don't know that. What are we hoping? You probably don't have a
What are
sense
we-
of what kind of scale this reduces our most expensive procurement, our resource adequacy.
Yeah, we've done some back of the envelope calculations to understand the impact. I think what we're hoping to achieve in this pilot is to firm up those numbers. It comes down to the default behavior without the intervention. So how many people are charging on peak currently? And I would hesitate to give an estimate here without having the data collected through the pilot.
So through the chair, when can we get that full report then, sir?
It would be after we've done enrollment and ran the pilot study. I would assume we'd have a decent idea within the first year of implementation. Our plan for the pilot would be 2 years, so we could report back on what we were finding.
So we have to get enrollments first before we can finalize the pilot, is that correct?
That's correct. We would engage with the vendor, open enrollment, get customers signed up, start to implement managed charging, and then report back to what we're seeing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Director Aguirre?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple questions. I have a clarifying question and then just a general one. The V2G, can you just go over that again and explain it? Because
Yeah.
am I understanding it correctly that the energy will be sucked out of the car and into the grid?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a new category of charging equipment called bidirectional charging equipment that is entering the market this year. It's going through its UL listing. That's the energy code kind of safety testing they do in laboratories. So when that's done, we'll start to see those hitting the market at a small scale. The CEC is advising. And these chargers are capable of not only delivering energy into the battery, but working with the onboard software of the vehicle. They can actually remove energy from the battery and push it back out into the grid. So it can be used to provide power to the home in parallel to the grid. So when the grid's operational, it can discharge to the home and kind of reduce the load. It can also, depending on the configuration of the system, provide power to the home when the grid's down. So it can operate in an islanded state as well. This is all new technology. We've been talking about it for probably 15 years, and we're finally here, which is kind of exciting.
Theoretically, it sounds really cool. It's like ambulatory little batteries, right? But I can see people being concerned about being depleted and then stranded. Is that something that will be addressed, or that's part of the pilot that will be tested?
Yeah, I mentioned customer acceptance. I think that's a big question. In addition to the technical operation of the vehicles and the charging infrastructure. There are a few things that can be done and will be done to address customer concern. One of them is allowing customers to nominate how much of the battery they want to give up. So most people in their in-town driving return home with a pretty high state of charge, north of 80%. I know I do. And if we were to set a charging threshold of, say, a discharge threshold of 50%, it would still have, with a decently sized battery, 20-ish, 25 kilowatt hours to spare that we could use. And then during that evening peak, and then when midnight hit, we would turn around and recharge the battery. So the customer would still have the full state of charge in the morning. And we would get the benefit in the evening with enough holdback that they had something in the middle of the night they needed to kind of use their vehicle. There'd be enough there.
Oh, that sounds great. In that vein of customer acceptance, what about if someone had concerns of their privacy being shared in the cloud? I know that's in general, at least my constituents, privacy is a big thing. So I was just curious about that. If there's any vulnerabilities there, if that's a concern, how will it be addressed?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the V1G application is using the existing cloud services of the vehicle. So we wouldn't be opening up a new channel of communication. It's something that the customer is already using through their app. And the security protocols are set to the standards that that meet the vehicle manufacturer's criteria. So they're not going to allow other systems to integrate unless it meets their criteria. So I would say that the kind of the security protocols and the threat of this secondary system is at a level that the OEMs have determined was acceptable and equal to what their systems are set up as.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Great questions. Like you said, this is the very beginning of the conversation. To build on Director Yuri's question, the bi-directional, is that dependent on the vehicle as well?
It is, yeah, so the vehicle, the chargers are going through testing now, and that's been a really long time coming. And then individual vehicle manufacturers are going through their own testing to make sure that you can charge and discharge the vehicle safely without damaging the battery or having any warranty issues. So we are basically at the mercy of the vehicle OEMs as gatekeepers. So they're saying like, okay, my vehicle can now participate in this type of an activity. This again is a dynamic, fast moving process. Right now, Kia is the first mover for the CCS standard and Nissan for the CHAdeMO standard, which are two different plug types, sorry. But there's a long list of other OEMs who are kind of right on their heels and waiting to get over the mark.
Okay. And I guess I think where Director Yamani was going, part of the pilot program is to really understand whether this scales up enough to actually make a significant impact on.
Yeah, so the technical potential is huge.
Yeah.
Evening loads in homes in the shoulder months when no air conditioning is running is 1 kW. These level 2 chargers can discharge up to 10 kW. So you're not only swamping the load of the single home, but all of the neighbors on the same transformer. So it's pretty massive. I think on the V2G side, what we're hoping to learn is how the equipment performs, how the customers feel about it. Do they have that anxiety? Are they comfortable with the load they're nominating? And then how we can operate it and make sure that we're maximizing value for all ratepayers.
Okay, because it sounds like it's rather than what we do now, which is please don't use a lot of energy during 4 to 9 o'clock in the evening. You kind of automate it, taking advantage of what the car can be integrated in that conversation. Yeah.
Yep, and this is part of this VGI strategy is kind of nested within the flexible load strategy, which I presented to the board in January. And it's all of a piece. It's helping customers through technology and direct load control, avoid the peak, reduce their bills, and help us manage cost.
Fantastic. All worthy goals. All right. Thank you, Tim. Without any objection, we'll just receive and file this since no motion and no action is going to be taken on this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now move on to item 14, quarterly report from the Community Advisory Committee. Turn over to Matthew Vasilakis, the Committee Advisory Chair, to present this item. When you're ready, sir.
Good evening, Chair Makama and SDCP Board of Directors. My name is Matthew Vasilakis, Chair of the Community Advisory Committee and CAC member representing the City of San Diego. At the February regular meeting of the Board of Directors, I presented a summary of CAC activities from November through January. So to get us back into the correct quarterly cadence, this report summarizes CAC activities that took place since my last report in March. So sorry for the frequency. A report on the April meeting is also part of your agenda this evening. You will receive a full report from the CAC during the July regular meeting. Over the past few months, the CAC has continued to improve its operations by implementing the board-approved scope of work and policies and procedures. Thank you very much. To support us in doing so, Fira Tiagi, SDCP's General Counsel, has been present during meetings and working to educate members on how these rules apply during the meetings and specific SDCP programming. So thank you. Our ad hoc committees also continue to provide opportunities for CAC members to engage with staff directly on several topics. In January, the programs and community and equity ad hoc committees came to an end. The same month, the CAC also stood up 2 new committees. The Community Grants Ad Hoc Committee, which met to provide feedback on the criteria proposed for SDCP's next round of community grant program, which has now closed. And the Power 100 Ad Hoc Committee, which continues to meet to discuss strategies to support key businesses and community-based organizations and opting up to the Power 100 Premium Program. While the CAC did not meet in March due to a lack of agenda items, it did hear from the programs team in February on 2 key items. The Community Grant Program, where members learned about the process and application and recommended conducting outreach to applicants of the previous rounds, as well as considering all member agencies when allocating awards, and the proposed residential and storage program, in which members engaged in discussion around the benefits of making the incentives available to renters and multifamily housing, the focus on equity. Lastly, I wanted to inform the board about some existing and upcoming vacancies on the CAC. Anna Webb, formerly representing the city of Imperial Beach, is no longer a CAC member as of March 11th, 2024. Anna served on the CAC since May 2020, and we're deeply grateful for her advocacy and support on the committee. Since drafting our staff report in your packet pertaining to this quarterly update, my fellow representative for the city of San Diego, Eddie Price, has announced his intention to step down from his role as a member. Eddie has also served on the CAC since the very beginning. The CAC is looking forward to working with the board of directors, not only to formally recognize the service of both Anna and Eddie, but also identifying key leaders in the community that can serve in ways to fill these vacancies. As a reminder, there are 2 vacancies currently, in addition to these, with the County of San Diego Unincorporated, a role that's been vacant since July of last year, and the city of Chula Vista. So we continue to work with staff to advertise the vacancies at meetings, community events, and through SDPC's social media. I do want to stress that your support from the board will be particularly important at the end of the next fiscal year, when several members will be terming out in June 2025. Concurrently, in the coming months, CAC members will work with staff to define key activities as part of the CAC work plan's focus on civic engagement and participation. The intent is to create ways to increase participation at CAC meetings, leverage CAC members' networks, and foster CAC member turnover resiliency. This concludes the quarterly CAC report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Marty, is there any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll turn it over again to the board members for comments. Is there any questions or comments of Mr. Vasilakis?
Nice to see you all.
Well, we certainly appreciate your leadership on the board. Shout out to Zio, who staffs the board. And I'm glad to hear that Vera is now part of that conversation as well. There's some really good input that we get from you all. I know that staff gets really well. Do the members have any other questions or anything? So with that, we'll just say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
All right, moving right along, item 15. Approve the first amendment to the EEI transaction confirmation and modified CAM resource adequacy between San Diego Community Power and San Diego Gas and Electric. Turn it over to Mr. Byron Vosberg, Managing Director of Power Services.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, directors. Nice and straightforward in the title. Any questions?
What does that all mean, sir?
Yeah, hopefully we can find out together. All right, so this one, both these agreements we're presenting today, this and the next item, should be familiar. These are agreements we've seen in the past. This one requires a little bit of memory going back to June 2022. So we can do a bit of a briefing here on where we are on modified CAM. So without, I'll save you all a whole lot of the regulatory details here, but the high level points are that the PUC ordered procurement to be done by all California load serving entities, LSEs, in 2019 for resources to be online in 21, 22, and 23. Obviously, we didn't exist in 2019. So SDG full allocation or full assignment to do procurement for additional resources. Then we came into existence and then filed our implementation plan a month later. And so we'll gloss over most of these details, but basically there was supposed to be this modified CAM mechanism via which our customers would pay for their share of the resources, but also get the attributes, the allocation of the resource adequacy, which is the main measurement here in this for these resources. So we did that. Sorry, we can stay on that previous slide. So a decision came out. It was I'll say we were all waiting for and excited for it to come out in 2022, which probably just admits how nerdy a lot of us are to be waiting on PC dockets in our free time. But in 2022, in May, a decision was released about how we could transact with SDG&E for our share of these resources. Yeah, looking into negotiations, I'll just say that we and SDG&E disagreed about how this should be calculated. So in the interest of time, we did proceed with their proposed methodology. And so that's where we ended up with the original MCAM agreement, again, that our board approved in June of 2022. We then filed a petition for modification. We and CEA, Clean Energy Alliance of North, filed a petition for modification to make sure that we could correctly account for all the resources that our customers should be receiving and paying for with SDG&E. So here we are. Feels like years. Well, it has been years later. It feels like decades later. We got a final decision in December of 2023, granting our petition for modification and ordering SDG&E to work with us at our option to purchase the rest of the resources from them. So that's. I think I said that'd be a quick background. Sorry if that was longer than we liked, but that's where we are here. We're going to have a very short, I think it's a 2-page amendment, just really to clarify our load share percentage in our modified CAM transaction with SDG&E. Next slide, please. Thank you. So all the bullets here that are not in bold, those are from the original agreement review that we did with the board in 2022. The effect of the amendment here is just in bold. So this will increase our load share of these resources from 34% to about 57%, which again increases our RA purchase this transaction from about 109, 110 megawatts to 102 starting in January of 2025. So that'll be about 70 megawatts of additional RA, 73 megawatts of additional RA starting next year. So that's the summary of it. I think that's the final slide. I'm happy to take any questions. You know, it's good news. And I'd be remiss, by the way, if I didn't. I know I mentioned the regulatory side of things. I want to give Laura Fernandez and her team a huge shout out. And again, we negotiate with SDG&E directly. We also negotiate with them via the PUC, which is a huge win to go through the piece of this petition for modification and then to kind of have a legislative victory as well that allows us to get this value for resources, value for our customers and resources from our customers that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. So first check, any public comment on this one?
No, Mr. Chairman.
What?
All the nerds are inside, they're not outside. So I'll turn it over to the board members. This one we will need, there is a staff recommendation, so we'll need the motion.
Do we have any questions or comments or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank our staff. I think this was excellent work, and it was nice to see that this definitely was a victory. With that, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve item 15.
I'll second, and I'll associate myself with the comments. Great job. Thank you for fighting for us all around. Good work.
Any other comments or anything? I know RA is kind of one of our toughest things to solve, and so this is huge. More enthusiasm. I don't know if we sell this. You're probably exhausted for the negotiations to this point. So, but yeah, clearly, as my colleagues have said, excellent work. This is huge. So we do have a motion by Director McCann and a second by Director Geary to move the staff recommendation. We will need a voice vote.
Chair LaCava,
Yes.
Director Aguirre,
Yes.
Director Parent,
Yes.
Director Yamani,
Yes,
Director McCann,
Aye.
Director Kinsey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Terrific. Thank you again, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, just stay right.
Sorry, yeah, you're not knowing me.
Okay, item 16, approve the amended and restated power purchase agreement with Pelican's Jaw Solar. Byron, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening again, Director. I'm back.
So item 16 here, again, I mentioned a couple of these look familiar. This one, we wanted to go quite as far into the Wayback Machine. We approved this in January of this year, so just a few months ago. We approved a PPA for a share of output from Pelican's Draw Solar. This will be looking to upsize that to take the full output from the facility. So you can see here, again, where the location is, it's in Southern California. We strive to be as local as possible. As you can see here in Southern California is not quite San Diego, but still reasonably close and local. And again, it's a 450 megawatt solar facility and a 240 megawatts of 4-hour battery. If we move forward, will be the full contract capacity of the resource. Next slide, please. Thank you. So again, brief history here. Thankfully, not as much on the regulatory side, but we ran solicitation in 2023. We shortlisted this shared output from this resource, and as we had discussed in January, we all discussed and then moved forward with a contract for 226 megawatts of solar capacity and 118 megawatts of the battery. In discussion with the developer, additional capacity became available. Won't get into any of those details, but additional capacity became available for the full output, which is mutually beneficial for a number of reasons. And so again, as we liked the original deal, we decided we may as well take the rest of it. Again, we reviewed it with the energy company group. Both directors for being involved in that as well, and we were able to negotiate better terms on pricing, both in the renewable energy pricing and storage price, by taking this full deal as well. So the amended and restated PPA will add, as it says here, 214 megawatts of solar. So to the original 216 plus 214 is the full 440, and then 120 megawatts of additional battery capacity as well. Next slide, please. Just a summary here, no changes here to any other terms in the agreement, again, except for the capacity and the pricing. This is a 15-year PPA that's expected to be online in 2027. And then, same thing here, we have all security and performance requirements in place as we do it in the Next slide, please. The staff analysis should look similar. This is really similar to what we all previously. But this obviously helps us achieve our 100% renewable targets. It does also help us meet midterm reliability obligations that we have for resources to come online in the next few years. Pricing, was competitive with the original deal. The fourth bullet here should, with better pricing, it is more competitive, right? Even better value in taking full output. And then again, SDCP is a well-known, renowned, and reputable developer of these resources in California and beyond. Next slide, please. Thank you. No changes here either, except that all the construction jobs, obviously, associated with this facility will be due to our purchase. There is a project labor agreement with the organizations listed there, and then still have the community benefit contribution to our fund to benefit our customers. Next slide, please. So that's the recommendation. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Byron. Okay, first public comment on this side.
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. This does require, there is a staff recommendation, will probably require a motion. Alternative board members, any questions or?
Madam.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ms. Director Yamani.
Mr. Vosper, can you please go to your page 2 of your presentation, sir, please?
Which?
Back, page 2. There. One page, sir, please. Nope.
Sorry, I'm not.
Forward. I think it's page 42. Page 42. I apologize. Can you move back page 41, please? The fourth bullet, would you be very kind to clarify that, please?
Boy, yeah, happily. How much time do we have? Yeah, each of these power purchase agreements that we sign, again, it is a 120 page document with all kinds of obligations and requirements, both of us and also of the developer. So this has a very stringent and detailed schedule for how this project will be developed. and milestones that they need to achieve throughout the development the phase, and then once it's online, obviously that they will deliver and hit a number of both development and also performance metrics over the term of the PPA. There are a number then of, depending on if they were to fall short of those performance metrics or be delayed in development of the resource, they would then face penalties to make us whole for any losses that we've sustained. Is that helpful?
Very, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion?
A motion for item 16, so moved.
I second, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Director Parent just beat you out, that lag of the technology, so. But we appreciate your questions, Director. So thank you for this good work. This is huge to get that whole package. So we appreciate that. And given all the, again, different things you have to satisfy the CPUC with, this will be another huge component of that portfolio. So with that, we'll call a voice vote.
Chair LaCava,
Yes.
Director Aguirre,
Yes.
Director Parent,
Yes.
Director Yamani. Say yes, ma'am. Director Yamani,
Yes,
Director McCann,
Aye.
and Director Hinsey. Yes, motion carries, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And with that, that brings us to the end of the regular agenda. We'll go to our reports and start out with our CEO, Karen Burns.
All right, good evening, board members. Good evening. Next slide. So a couple of things that we've been up to over the past month here. Last week, the San Diego Community Power team was in San Jose for the annual Cal CCA conference, which this year sported over 800 participants. As part of the event, our back office service provider Calpine hosted a pre-conference where I joined Lori Mitchell of San Jose Clean Energy for a conversation about the future of CCAs and our role in shaping a clean energy future. During the conference, our team was able to connect with many leaders from across the CCA and clean energy industries and enjoy opportunities to learn from one another and share insights. I also had the opportunity to sit down with other CCA CEOs in a panel conversation about the diverse experiences that we bring to our roles as chief executives. It was great to share the stage with Sean Marshall of Peninsula Clean Energy, Monica Padilla of Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and Rob Shaw of 3CB. Next slide, please. So Earth Day for SDCP was a bit more like Earth Month. We were very busy. We kicked things off at the South Bay Earth Day as the Kid Zone sponsor, with a special shout out to the City of Chula Vista Sustainability Manager, Corey Downs, for leading a sustainable tie-dye activity with us for kids and parents. Last Saturday, our team was also at La Mesa Earth Day, and on Monday, our team joined hundreds of county staff at the County Operations Center. Tuesday brought us to Power 100 champion Illumina's Earth Day celebration and Earth Day fairs at both Sony Electronics and Grossmont College. Then on Wednesday, we headed to UC San Diego for their Climate Education Day. We were able to speak with the UC community about our efforts to shape a sustainable future. And we're excited to continue our activities in June at EcoFest in Sanitas. I want to give a huge shout out to our public affairs and outreach team for their engagement and work and efforts over this past month. Finally, we were able to celebrate Earth Day with another Power 100 champion, the San Diego Padres. In partnership with them, we sent our annual partnership email in celebration of their commitment and Petco Park's commitment to 100% clean energy. And the email also included simple tips that Padres fans can take to implement sustainable habits every day as part of our Earth Day efforts. And this Earth Day message was also shared across the Padres social media and in the stadium before this weekend's games on Saturday and Sunday. Next slide, please. All right, and lastly, before I conclude, I want to provide a quick update on our hiring progress. We are continuing to build our dream team and are currently recruiting for a marketing manager to join our marketing and communications team. And we are currently interviewing for a settlements analyst, a community engagement associate, project operations and proposal manager, and a senior strategic policy manager. And that's what I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions by the board? Not seeing any. Not seeing any questions by the board. Our general counsel has now been with us 3 months. You have anything to add?
Like 3 months on May 1st. Feels like 3 years. But all good. No report for me. I think I do most of my work behind the scenes. But thank you.
All right, thank you, Vera. Opportunity for directors, anything you want to add to the conversation? Okay, with that, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I appreciate everyone's participation today. We got it done, I think, in under an hour. Our May agenda will be a little bit longer. There's a lot of activity, so we'll have more to consider. But we are adjourned until the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors, Sydney Community Power, to May 23rd, 2024. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Yamani.